In 2005, America's most powerful law enforcement agency suffered a devastating data breach. To stop the bleeding, the FBI paid a 20-year-old hacker $10,000 to catch the culprit and even handed him an official letter of commendation. They had absolutely no idea he was the one who hacked them in the first place. To understand how the Bureau got played, we have to go back to 2001. Maksym Popov was a 20-year-old Ukrainian hacker who thought he had just struck a deal for the American dream. The U.S. Embassy in London promised him seed funding for a tech startup, a legitimate job, and a new identity. But the moment his flight touched down at JFK Airport, the smiles vanished. The visa he was promised was actually an arrest warrant. Instead of a welcome party in Silicon Valley, Popov was thrown into an isolation cell. A prosecutor slid a single piece of paper through the bars. The terms were simple: cooperate as an informant or rot in federal prison for 30 years. The FBI thought they had secured a brilliant asset. Instead, they taught a master manipulator a very dangerous lesson. By lying completely to get him into cuffs, they showed Popov that law enforcement plays dirty. From that moment on, he decided to use their own tactics against them. For 3 months, Popov played along. Agents escorted him to a Virginia safe house every morning to log in to Russian hacker forums. But he was quietly typing messages in slang-filled Russian his handlers couldn't read. He warned every major player in the underground that Uncle Sam was watching. When the FBI finally translated the logs, they threw him straight into county jail. But an agent in California named E.J. Hilbert saw an opportunity in the wreckage. Hilbert was tracking Eastern European cybercrime and believed you can't catch wolves with sheepdogs. You need another wolf. He made Popov a wild offer: work from a jail cell by day and hunt hackers for the FBI by night. The target was CarderPlanet. Think of it as the Amazon of identity theft. It was a massive digital marketplace where 10,000 criminals bought and sold stolen lives. You could buy a credit card for $1 or an entire identity, complete with a mother's maiden name, for $30. The FBI was desperate to map this sprawling digital underworld. To do it, they handed a massive budget to a known trader, instructing Popov to become the biggest buyer on the forum. They planted a ticking time bomb inside their own agency, hoping it would only blow up the bad guys. Popov's value quickly became apparent. When 8 million credit card numbers were stolen, the FBI set up a high-stakes sting inside a Los Angeles Bank of America vault. They stacked $200,000 in real cash. While a camera rolled, Popov fanned the $100 bills, speaking Russian to the thieves and posing as a heavy-hitting mobster ready to buy the entire database. The stunt worked perfectly. Popov then invented a fake credit card manufacturing company and casually told the data thief they were hiring security consultants at a starting salary of $70,000. The thief was so eager, he submitted his real resume, complete with his full name, home address, and passport scan, practically arresting himself. While Popov was racking up arrests, he was still spending his days locked up and his holidays alone in FBI conference rooms. On Thanksgiving Day 2002, Agent Hilbert walked in with a full turkey dinner, a projector, and a copy of The Lord of the Rings. They didn't talk about cases. They just ate pie and watched a movie. It was the first time since Popov landed in America that someone treated him like a human being instead of a disposable asset. But this rare moment of humanity had an unintended side effect. It showed Popov exactly how crucial he was to the agency's success. He realized the FBI couldn't function without him, and he decided to stop acting like a pawn. On New Year's Eve 2004, Agent Hilbert's phone rang. It was Popov, who had recently finished his sentence and was living in a bureau-funded apartment. He told Hilbert to check his email. The FBI's own internal systems had been breached. As this network map shows, the attackers bypassed modern firewalls by exploiting X25, a forgotten networking protocol from 1976 that the Bureau hadn't bothered to update because almost no one knew it was still active. The damage was extensive. Highly classified target lists, active case codes, and the real names of undercover informants were completely exposed. Popov offered to fix the problem for a price. He quickly identified a Russian hacker named Leonid Sokolov, arranged an introduction online, and helped Hilbert secure an easy confession. Grateful for the quick save, the FBI cut him a check for $10,000 and handed him an official letter praising his invaluable assistance. The FBI was so desperate for a lifeline that they paid a foreign national who had recently skipped his probation to solve their own internal security failure. They were completely reliant on a guy who was already manipulating them. Popov took that official FBI commendation and used it to launch a new scheme. Under an alias, he started approaching Fortune 500 companies, like EMC Corporation, who had their sensitive source code stolen. He posed as a helpful security consultant, but the pitch was pure extortion. Pay his massive fee, or the underlying blueprints of your software go public. When federal prosecutors in Boston uncovered the extortion racket, they realized an FBI informant was running it. They cornered Agent Hilbert and demanded his source's real name. Hilbert was trapped in a no-win scenario. Exposing Popov would torch multiple active national security investigations, but protecting him would make Hilbert look like a corrupt cop running a protection racket. Hilbert refused to give up the name. Within days, he was under investigation for conspiracy and obstruction of justice. His computer was seized, his promotions were denied, and after 15 years of service, he placed his badge and gun on his supervisor's desk. The master criminal walked away with tens of thousands of dollars in corporate extortion money and total immunity. The only person who paid a price was the loyal agent who tried to navigate a broken, contradictory system, losing his career in the process. 7 years later, in 2012, Hilbert's phone rang. The caller ID showed a Ukrainian number. It was Popov. He called to thank Hilbert for that Thanksgiving dinner a decade earlier, telling the former agent that he was the only friend he ever had. Then, almost casually, Popov dropped a final detail. He confessed that he was the one who hacked the FBI back in 2004. Popov and his partner used that outdated X25 vulnerability to pull the classified files. Popov then framed his partner, handed him over to Hilbert on a silver platter, and sold the solution back to the very agency he had just robbed. Popov treated the entire breach like a staged performance. He wrote the script, cast himself as both the villain causing the crisis and the hero resolving it, then convinced the US government to fund the entire production. In the modern digital landscape, the distinction between an elite security consultant and a malicious hacker often boils down to which side of the law they're standing on that day. Popov demonstrated that the keyboard doesn't change, only the employer does. It also leaves an impossible ethical question. Put yourself in Agent Hilbert's shoes. If you were forced to make that split-second decision in the prosecutor's office, what would you do? Would you expose your source and compromise multiple national security operations, or protect the source and destroy your own career? Let me know what you would do in the comments.